Who gains more, the giver or the receiver? This was the subject of research of Harvard professor Michael Norton, who found that those that gave to others increased their happiness more than if they would have spent that same money on themselves. In fact, that was surprising even to those who participated in the study. We know this is true because we understand now with biochemistry that chemicals are released to our pleasure centers when we give and we find meaning and fulfillment in helping another human being. This idea is found within our Talmud in Masechet Baba Batra, and I'll quote two for you, one by Rabbi Nachman and one by Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Nachman stated that God places people in need before us, kedei lekabel alehem sicharo, that we could receive a reward on their behalf. It's not about their need, but about what we gain from giving to them. Rabbi Akiva was challenged by Turnus Rufus, who said, if God loves the poor so much, why does God himself not give them their sustenance? And so Rabbi Akiva said, that we could be saved through them, because of them, because the gain that we have and we receive when we give to them. So in this week's parasha, when it says about a person who fell into destitute to the point that he had to sell his ancestral lands, Uba go'alo, and the Redeemer came to redeem him, it's not just about helping the other person, but it's also about helping ourselves. Because it's not solely lifting them up from perpetual poverty, by getting them back their property, but by also the rewards that we receive. On Shavuot, we're going to read about Megillat Ruth, and we find two models, two people who had the capability of giving. Avimelech was extremely wealthy, the Midrash tells us, and yet during times of trouble did not want to be bothered by those in need, and so he left to Moab. At the end of the day, Avimelech ended up with absolutely nothing. Boaz, on contrast, gave him of himself not only physically by supporting and feeding those in need, but also emotionally. I'd like to quote the words of Ruth. Ruth says to Boaz, "V'chi dibarta alev shivhatecha." You not only helped me by feeding me and my mother-in-law Naomi, you also were empathetic and there for us emotionally. Boaz, in contrast to Avimelech, ends up with kingship. Not him himself, but his progeny ends up as David HaMelech, King David, and Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon, two of the greatest kings we ever had in history. That is an incredible reward. We have so many opportunities to help others in this difficult time. And again, it's not just about them, it's also about ourselves. And in this uncertain time, gaining some sense of certainty, having some level of control, because we cannot control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. And giving to others is one of those ways of responding to this difficult time, and thereby finding fulfillment and finding meaning, which is so powerful for us. I'd like to quote the Hafetz Haim to you. I've loosely translated it into English. Everybody in life has pressures, illnesses, tragedy, disappointments, problems, finance troubles, and employment uncertainty. But blessed is the person who puts as his major pressures requests for hesed, to help others, to help institutions, and to redeem others physically and emotionally. We have so many opportunities, not only financially by supporting the institutions that are feeding and giving shelter to those in need, but also through hesed, through emotionally being there for others, picking up the phone and calling people who may feel lonely. If we have a car, dropping off food, driving people to doctor's appointments, medically by giving blood and plasma. But I want to emphasize again the power of being there for someone else emotionally, and I'm going to close with this story. Someone shared for me a very powerful interaction with Rabbi Ezra Labatan alav shalom. This individual completely lost his business and was in Great Depression. It wasn't at the time of the Great Depression, he was feeling Great Depression. Rabbi Labatan had heard of this and called this individual and showed up at his house. Together they sat on this person's couch. Rabbi Labatan said to him, "I know absolutely nothing about business, but I'll sit here and be with you as your friend." This individual telling me the story told me that Rabbi Labatan at that point became his rabbi, because that was so absolutely impactful on his life. Not that he gave him business advice, gave him finances, but he was there for him emotionally. And that's what so many of us need right now. During this time of uncertainty, when there are so many needs that we have, and we may ourselves be searching for a Redeemer, let us be the Goel, be the Redeemer, and help someone else. Shabbat Shalom.